Galapagos penguins are from the coastal areas of the Galapagos Islands off the northwestern shores of South America. They live in a tropical area. Galapagos penguins depend on cold water ocean currents for their survival. Penguins may reproduce up to 3 times in a single year. These birds don't have a breeding season, they just get frisky when the feeling is right. Pretty much any fish that are half a foot or smaller in length. So anchovies, sardines, and mullets all make the menu. Bold moves considering these birds are less than 2 feet tall on average. With full bellies achieved, Galapagos penguins will pair up, usually with the same partner as last time, and get to preparing a nest. In order to keep the eggs cool and to protect them from predators, the parents will construct their nests in lava tunnels and caves. Other factors that threaten Galapagos penguins include starvation due to climatic events. See, because these birds depend so heavily on unpredictable cold water currents, warm weather events like El Niño can drastically harm their populations. When they are ready to raise a family, the female will almost always lay 2 eggs. Both the parents will take turns incubating the eggs and taking care of the chicks once they hatch. They're the next few months standing on the shores, still begging for food from time to time. It takes a few years before they're ready to have a family of their own. Emperor penguins are the largest of the 17 penguin species, and they're the only animals we know of that breed during some of the coldest winter months. That documentary focused mainly on one specific colony, but there are more than 40 emperor penguin colonies that we know of, and they don't all act the same. According to observations, some colonies don't live as far from the water as the colony featured in March of the Penguins, so the penguin dads don't have to go as long without eating. There are also some colonies who don't utilize natural cliff formations to help buffer weather conditions during the winter, which means that penguin dads are even more cold-proof than we thought. Emperor penguins have to brave these harsh winter conditions for their offspring. If they lay their eggs during any other part of the year, their chicks would not be appropriately developed to start feasting during the Antarctic summer. For as much dedication as the emperor penguin parents provide, however, once a baby is old enough to survive on its own, the parents leave. The baby emperor penguins will take their first dives into the ocean once all of their downy baby feathers have molted. Even in a crowd of more than 10,000, they have individual voices. Their voices are so distinct that some studies have shown that, after returning to breeding grounds a year later, nearly 15% of couples find each other again. That's where penguins are at their most vulnerable during their first year of life. A dropped egg can perish due to freezing in mere minutes, and young chicks fall victim to large Antarctic birds such as skua. Penguins have been recorded diving nearly 2,000 feet in search of food, though closer to 500 feet is more common. Their diets change throughout the year just based on what is most available at any given time. They tend to take smaller prey items as these take less time to metabolize. If you think about it, the food they eat is pretty dang cold, so they actually have to warm it up within their bodies in order to complete digestion, and smaller bites take less time to warm up. Of all the emperor penguin breeding colonies are found along the coast of Antarctica, which is warmer than the interior of the landmass, and postulated that global warming could be affecting these birds and other species of Antarctic animals, though they do still require cooler conditions, with some species even having methods for losing heat as opposed to retaining. Though there's also the possibility their name comes from the Latin word meaning fat, which would be adorable. Some penguins a name that means something along the lines of rump-legged, because their feet are positioned more like a seal's and closer to their tail. But emperor penguins breed during the Antarctic winter on sea ice and store their eggs on their feet to keep them warm. The great penguins make up the first penguin group. The group includes both king and emperor penguins. These are the largest living penguins. They call the Antarctic wilderness home. Next are the brush-tailed penguins, who get their name for obvious reasons. This group includes Adelie, chinstrap, and gentoo penguins. These penguins mostly eat krill, though they may also take fish. Brush-tailed penguins live from Antarctica to sub-Antarctic islands. They eat small fish and reach approximately 1.5 feet in height. Their numbers are greater than 15 million individuals, with more than 7 million mating pairs. In other words, there are more chinstrap penguins in the world than there are people in 46 of the 50 United States. In other words, that's a lot of penguins. They live inside the Antarctic Peninsula, and also inhabit many Antarctic and subantarctic islands, with their greatest populations on the South Orkney, Shetland, and Sandwich Islands. From March through October, chinstraps will spend time in the open ocean and north of winter's pack ice. Chinstrap penguins will help in constructing the nest using pebbles. The nest is important in helping keep the eggs and eventually the chicks off the wet ground. The females will almost always lay 2 eggs, and both parents will take turns in incubating them. The eggs usually hatch a month later, and the young chicks will stay on the nest for another month, being fed by either parent returning from a hunting trip. The parents usually return with more than half a pound of krill for the chicks to eat. That's like almost 4 cans of Fancy Feast. A month after hatching, they usually have developed enough to live without the warmth and protection of one of their parents, and the chicks will all stay together in a large group called a creche. In this group, all the young penguins will huddle for warmth and protection while their parents go hunt. It's about a month later that all the penguins, new ones included, will make their migration, the young taking to the sea for the first time. The young penguins will reach sexual maturity around 3 years of age, and they can live up to 20 years. While at sea, the main meal of chinstrap penguins is krill. They will occasionally eat shrimp and fish, but krill is their #1 food source. They'll dive to depths of over 200 feet at speeds of nearly 20 miles per hour to find food. Their main enemy is the leopard seal, but they are also consumed by orcas and even sharks. Chinstrap penguins' backs, beaks, and the top section of their wings appear blue-black in color, and they have white bellies and faces. Their feet are usually pink on the top and black on the bottom, and their eyes are red. The characteristic from which their name is derived is the thin black line running from ear to ear across the penguin's chin. They kind of look like they're wearing a helmet. They are also known as ringed and bearded penguins. Another distinct feature is the chinstrap penguin's white face. The royal penguin is the only other species of penguin that sports a white face, as opposed to the typical black seen on all other species. Chinstrap penguins stand at about 25 inches tall and weigh anywhere from 7 to 14 pounds depending on the time of year. Males and females look almost identical, and there aren't many size variations between the two. Apparently, these penguins are not the kind you want to mess with either. It's been documented by several individuals that chinstrap penguins are among the most aggressive of penguin species, and will even try to take over neighboring Adelie penguin colonies if the opportunity arises.